Off the ice attendance is down and the fans have issues on the ice. The Islanders are running out of excuses and time. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. We have got a lot to discuss today, both on and off the ice. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR VS NYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you. Game time or anytime. All right, lots to discuss today. We're going to start with a little simple transaction. The Islanders activating defenseman Robert Bortuzzo off of LTIR. That was officially done Monday afternoon. Bortuzzo has missed 30 games in a row after suffering a lower body injury back on January 2nd against the Avalanche. He's been skating with the team for 3 weeks, practiced with the team in full on Friday of last week, and now is back on the team. The question is, does he step in and play tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes? To me, I would certainly insert him into the lineup over Sebastian Aho, but again, we have to see what Patrick Waugh decides and how ready Robert Bortuzzo is. Again, tonight, Islanders going up against the Carolina Hurricanes, and that game is a 7:30 Eastern time start. And don't forget, you can hear every minute of that game with the Islanders hometown radio broadcast on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. But the big story in Newsday on Monday, talking about fans' issues with the Islanders' situation right now when it comes to season tickets. And a lot of fans' attendance has dropped roughly 5% since UBS Arena opened, and there seems to be an issue for a lot of season ticket holders. The prices are going up, reportedly around 10 to 12%. And then certain fans, because of ongoing construction issues, will not have access next year to the Belmont Park garage, meaning that they will have to park in, the Emerald lot, which means you either have a long walk in the cold during most of the season, or you have to wait for a shuttle bus to take you to the arena. And look, there are some issues with UBS Arena. It is a beautiful, state-of-the-art place. It's clean, big concourses, unlike the old barn, the Nassau Coliseum. But clearly the construction around Belmont Park and the arena, which is ongoing, is an issue. And, we all know about the distance still for the for the fans that were used to going to the Nassau Coliseum, UBS Arena still not as convenient geographically for most of them. Uh, Better than Brooklyn, better than Barclays Center, which was a real problem for a lot of people. And the LIRR does now go to UBS, although, again, waiting for a train after the game is not always the easiest thing, although my experience in the few games that I've been to are that, the train actually worked out pretty well. So, I think off the ice, you have the parking issue, the commuting issue, and the price issue. Those are the three big things. And let's face it, the price of food, the price of parking. I mean, $40 to park your car uh, is pretty outlandish. Again, the train, in my mind, a better option from that perspective. Might even be better to park nearby and take an Uber. But regardless, I think that's an issue. And then I think the team's performance on the ice is also an issue for a lot of fans. And, you look at the struggles of this team, the style that they play is not always the most exciting. And I think the other part of it is, as the team still could make the playoffs, but again, nobody is going to say that this Islanders team is a Stanley Cup contender. I think there are, five teams right off the bat in the Eastern Conference alone who you have to say are better than the Islanders, like without much debate. Boston, the Rangers, the Panthers, the Hurricanes, and the Maple Leafs. And then you can start debating Tampa Bay, Philly, Detroit, Washington, the Islanders, et cetera. But this team is not a Stanley Cup contender. They are a playoff contender, and they may or may not make it. Out west, certainly Vancouver, Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, Edmonton, all better than the Islanders. And then you can start debating Nashville, LA, and Vegas, and St. Louis, and Minnesota. By the way, all those teams that I mentioned in the West have more points than the Islanders this year, although there are some games in hand with some of them. But I think, the fact that this team remains a fringe playoff team without a very strong prospect pool, without a recent history of developing and drafting and developing players, when you start to have to spend more money for a product that is, let's just say, mediocre, a lot of people are just saying, hey, no, not going to do it, especially when, sometimes when you have season tickets, there's 41 games. Let's say you're going to go to half of them and you're going to try to sell the other half to help pay for the season tickets. If you don't have access to the parking garage, that takes away the season ticket benefits. And then second of all, if you can't resell your tickets for even face value that season ticket holders pay without the fees and whatever discounts they get as season ticket holders, if that's not going to happen, why be a season ticket holder? If you want to go to 10 games or 15 games, do a partial plan or buy the tickets in the secondary market. A lot of fans are just saying, hey, not going to do it, not worth it. And the key thing is, the construction will eventually resolve itself, hopefully, and you'll have the restaurants and the hotel and everything else around the arena. That will certainly help once it's all done, but that will take a few more years. But the product on the ice and the price increase, when you raise your ticket prices, 12%, when the product on the ice is not as good as it was a year ago by record, and the short term, the outlook for the next 2 or 3 seasons is iffy at best, based on the way the team is put together, well, that creates a real problem for a lot of season ticket holders who would just rather not spend their money that way. So let's see how management addresses it. For those people who have said they want Lou Lamoriello to move, not be the GM anymore, one way to get that message across to management is to not show up for games. I think that is by far, people vote with their wallets when it comes to this kind of a thing. So we'll see whether or not management gets the message and whether or not they do anything about it. But it's interesting, the arena isn't brand new anymore. So most of the people who have wanted to go to the arena have gone to the arena, and now you have to put that good product on the ice to keep fans coming back and have a good in-game experience. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We're going to talk about some of the problems that are plaguing the Islanders and what they might be able to do coming down the stretch. And some of these problems are more than a little irritating. We're going to talk about that. And oh yeah, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a Swedish player who was with the Islanders when they won their last Stanley Cup and spent parts of 3 seasons with the Isles in the early to mid 80s. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got that plus a preview of tonight's game against the Hurricanes coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Islander fans, regardless of where we are in the standings, I want to remind you that you could win big playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Dobson, McDavid, or McKinnon will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Islander fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Well, Locked On Sports Today. Baseball fans, mark your calendars for March 20th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. The best Major League Baseball season preview is coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. It's March 20th, 7 o'clock in the evening. Be the first to get local insight from the MLB local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it on March 20th at 7 o'clock Eastern Time on Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. So the Islanders are still dealing with issues, and it's kind of upsetting to see the inconsistency that this team has had all year. And I want to sort of address something that Patrick Roy had to say. And look, part of the problem is that the Islanders do not seem motivated consistently on a game in, game out basis. And it's a real problem. And you have a veteran team that really should know better. And Patrick Roy, after the loss Sunday at Madison Square Garden, he basically summed it up perfectly. I saw a team that played better than us today. And the Islanders need to be giving their A game, and they just don't seem to be able to do it. And here again, wow. The Rangers manage the puck much better than we did. They're very fast in transition. And every day, as you know, I've talked about the lack of this team's lack of speed since the offseason and even before that. But then here's the other thing. I thought they had more energy than us for some reason. Yeah, but that shouldn't be. The Rangers, they haven't clinched a playoff spot, but they're unless they somehow go like 1-16-1 the rest of the way, or whatever how many games they have left, they're making the playoffs. They are in. The Islanders, who are on the outside looking in and were also coming into the game on Sunday, should have been the more desperate team, the more motivated team, but they weren't. And it is very, very frustrating, to say the least, when, you know, your team just comes out flat. And they were like that against Ottawa, a team they really should have beaten. And look, I mean, the LA game and the Buffalo game, you could talk about travel affecting that. And while I don't give the team a pass, I get it that you could have, to me, one of those two games, I could understand them losing them both and getting, completely shut out and dominated, not acceptable. But, with the third game in the Western time zone and then the travel back east, yeah, okay. But this weekend, there should have been no excuse for this team not bringing its A game. And yet we saw it both games over the weekend. Not once, but twice. And, it just isn't getting done right now. And it seems to me, and again, I don't get this because it is a veteran team. But it seems to me that any little change in routine, whether it's time zones or back-to-back games or matinee games, seems to be too much for this Islanders team. The Islanders have played 5 matinee games this season. Their record in those 5 games, no wins, 3 losses, and 2 loser points. 0, 3, and 2. Which means they've lost all 5 of those games. They just got a point in 2 of them. In the second game of a back-to-back, the Islanders have had 8 of them this year. Their record in those 8 games, 0, 5, and 3. 0, 5, and 3. Now, okay, Sunday was both the second game of a back-to-back and a matinee, so it's, not a perfect, you can't just add the 2 together, but if you do combine them, they are 0, 8, and 5. But it's not 13 games. But the fact that out of all the matinees and all the back-to-backs, you have 0 wins is not acceptable. And the Islanders, again, you would think a veteran team would know what they have to do to prepare for a back-to-back and know what they have to do when, okay, it's a matinee. We have to get a little bit of an earlier start. The routine is going to be different. I've been in this league, if you're Kyle Palmieri, you've been in this league for what, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. You telling me you don't know how to prepare for a matinee or a back-to-back after all this time? Does age play a role in this situation with the back-to-backs? I think it might. But again, this is a team that should know better. This is a team that should not be bothered by a slight change in routine or in a back-to-back game, because it's part of the game and it has been. And, Matthew Barzal was asked by The Athletic about, whether the team's bad habits have gotten back in to their game recently. And, he basically said, we should have won against Ottawa. Not that we should have won the way we played, but just from a desperation standpoint. And we played a good hockey team tonight being the Rangers. We're definitely giving a good effort. At this point in the season, it's still so tight in the race that things change quickly. We rattle off the next 2 or 3, just get one at this point, our spirits will be completely changed. First of all, Barzy, no offense, but I don't think you're giving a good effort as a team, not you personally. And second of all, the desperation level has to be there. It shouldn't be, we just need one and then we're back. It has to be, we need to win tonight. We need to show what we can do because we need the points. And we are just not consistently getting that from the New York Islanders in the last 4 games for sure, and really over the course of the entire season as well. So I'm hoping that this team can find itself, but as I've said, and every day, as you know, I've said, there are flaws on this team. They need to get younger, faster, more skilled. They need more depth. And until changes are made to this lineup, and I think changes are made in the way this team is led, whether it's a captain or just bringing in a guy who gives the team a little bit more juice emotionally. Too many guys just seem to be a little too complacent on this team recently, and it's not good enough to get the job done. We have got more to get to on today's show. We'll preview tonight's game against the Hurricanes. We'll have our Islanders' birthday of the day, and we're trying to set up a very special get-together for an Islanders game with the Locked On Islanders viewers and listeners, and I'll tell you how you can join us for that. So stay tuned. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you could still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal issues info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Islanders, Hurricanes, tonight at UBS Arena, a huge game for the New York Islanders. 7:30 Eastern time start. And don't forget, you can hear every minute of this game with the Islanders' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. The Hurricanes are not an easy opponent. We all know what happened in the playoffs last year. They are in second place in the Metropolitan Division, 90 points. That puts them 17 games ahead of the Islanders in the standings. They're 42-20-6. Yeah, the Islanders have a game in hand. They are winners of their last 3 games in a row, and they are 8-2 in their last 10. So that ought to give you a pretty good idea of where this team is. When you look at the numbers, they are 6th in the league in goals scored, 4th in goals against after a slow start defensively, 4th on the power play, so the Islanders better stay out of the box, and 2nd on the PK in the NHL. This is a team that will win with special teams. The goalies right now, Peter Kochetkov and Frederik Andersen. Andersen expected to play tonight. He is red hot. He is 8-1 in his 10 starts with a 2.17 goals against average and a 9.17 save percentage. Sebastian Aho, not the Islanders' Sebastian Aho, leads the team in both goals and assists, 27 goals, 47 assists, and 74 points. That's 21 points higher than Seth Jarvis, who is next on the team. There are Jarvis Teuvo Teravainen and Martin Neckash, each with 21 goals or more. So 4 20-plus goal scorers right now in this lineup. Meanwhile, the line combinations. Aho centers the newly acquired Jake Gunsel along with Seth Jarvis on a very dangerous top line. Evgeny Kuznetsov centers Andrei Svechnikov and Martin Neckash on the second line. Jordan Stahl, Jordan Martinook, and Jesper Fast on the third line. And then Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Brendan Lemieux, and Stefan Nosen are the fourth line. Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns, a very dangerous offensive pair on the top defense pairing. Brady Shea and Brett Pesce are the second pair, and then Dmitry Orlov and Jalen Chatfield are the third pairing. The goalies, Frederick Anderson and Peter Kochetkov. So we'll see who the Islanders will face. The last game, Carolina played a 7-2 trouncing of the Ottawa Senators, and Frederick Anderson was the goalie in that game. This is an ESPN Plus game, so just be aware of that when you're looking for the game tomorrow. As far as injuries, Jack Drury right now listed as day to day, and we'll see whether or not he is back. We'll also, again, see whether Robert Bortuzzo ends up being in the lineup. Look, we know where the standings are. This is a must game for the New York Islanders. No questions about it. Time now for our Islanders' birthday of the day, and today will be the 66th birthday of former Islanders winger Mats Hallin, the native of Sweden, 6'2", 200 pounds, a seventh-round pick of the Capitals back in 1978, but made his NHL debut with the Islanders in 1982-83, played 30 games, had 7 goals, 14 points, and stayed with the Islanders for 3 seasons, earned a Stanley Cup ring, playing in 7 playoff games in 82-83. Spent 2 seasons with the Minnesota North Stars and then went back to Europe, to Switzerland and Sweden. Hung up his skates after the 91-92 season. Later coached in Sweden for 1 season back in 97-98. But was only an Islander, for 3 seasons. Wasn't always a regular. 152 games played, 17 goals, 31 points, 193 penalty minutes. You can add a goal in 15 playoff games and 13 penalty minutes. Only one of those games was not with the New York Islanders. But if you're going to ask, what was Mats Hallin's best game as an Islander? Well, it's easy. March 19th, 1983. Home game at the Nassau Coliseum. The Flyers invading the Broad Street Bullies with Bob Froese in goal. Roland Melanson, the goalie for the Islanders. Mats Hallin, who, as I mentioned, had 17 goals in his NHL career, 14 of them with the Islanders over 3 seasons. Well, 3 of them came in this game in the first period. Hallin scores from Billy Carroll and Dave Langevin, and it makes it 2-0 in favor of the Islanders. In the second period, with the score 4-1, Hallin scores on an assist from Dennis Potvin. That makes it 5-1 Islanders, and then after Ilkka Sinisalo made it 5-2, Hallin completes the hat trick. Again, Dennis Potvin with the assist. Islanders crush the Flyers by a score of 9-2. But for Mats Hallin, his only career NHL hat trick, he's a +2. All 3 goals at even strength, and he scored on all 3 shots that he took. So Mats Hallin is our Islanders' birthday of the day. So again, we're trying to get a group outing for Locked On Islanders listeners and viewers to go to UBS Arena and attend a game so we could all meet in person and enjoy each other's company. I plan on being there if we get enough people to do this, and I'd love to. So there are 5 home games in April. I'm assuming we could get tickets and pay a group rate if we get enough people to go. So check out IslandersNightOut.wordpress.com. And I will put that link in the show notes, both on YouTube and on audio podcasts. and give your name and information, your email, and we will, try to see how many people are interested and then try to get some tickets at a reasonable price so we can all meet up and enjoy an Islanders game together. It's something that I would really love to do, and I'd love to meet as many of you as possible. So check out the website and sign up, and let's see if we can get everybody together. Thanks again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we'll have our key takeaways from tonight's game against the Hurricanes, plus our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.